After 20 years as a widow, she never imagined love would return at 68. After 20 years as a widow, Eleanor had convinced herself that chapter was closed. Love was something that happened in her past, something she had already lived, already lost, already buried alongside Robert in that cemetery plot they had chosen together when they were young and foolish enough to think planning for death was romantic. At 68 years old, Eleanor had built a life around absence. A carefully constructed existence where Robert's memory filled every room, but his presence filled none. She kept his reading glasses on the nightstand, his favorite coffee mug in the cabinet, his coat still hanging by the door. 20 years and she still hadn't moved them. Couldn't move them. Because moving them would mean accepting he was never coming back. But Eleanor, we need to tell you something important right now, before we go any further into her story. If you've ever felt like your best years are behind you, if you've ever thought love only happens once, if you've ever believed it's too late for your heart to feel anything new, you need to hear what happened to Eleanor, because what you're about to discover will challenge everything you think you know about love and age and second chances. So stay with us. This gets unbelievable. Eleanor wasn't always this way. Before Robert died, she was vibrant, full of opinions and laughter and spontaneous dinner parties that lasted until midnight. She taught literature at the community college. Robert would joke that she loved books more than she loved him. She would kiss him and say that's impossible, but also not entirely untrue. Their house was full of books and friends and noise and life. Then the heart attack took him. Sudden, brutal, final. Eleanor was 48 years old and suddenly a widow, a word that felt too old for her, too final, too permanent. The funeral was a blur. So many people, so many casseroles, so many hands squeezing hers and voices saying if you need anything, but what she needed was impossible. She needed him back. The first year was survival, just breathing in and out, just getting through each day without completely falling apart. The second year was numbness, a thick fog that made everything distant and gray. The third year was when Eleanor realized this might be forever, this emptiness, this ache, this half-life. She tried. People don't give her enough credit for how hard she tried. She went to grief support groups where everyone had the same hollow look in their eyes. She tried therapy, tried medication, tried traveling to places she and Robert had always planned to see, but visiting Paris alone just made her angry. Angry at him for dying, angry at herself for being angry, angry at couples walking hand in hand along the Seine who still had each other. She retired from teaching at 60. Couldn't stand in front of students anymore and pretend to care about symbolism in Hemingway when her own life had become a tragedy she couldn't analyze her way out of. Her daughter Miranda lived 3 states away with her own family. They called every Sunday. "Are you okay, Mom?" "I'm fine, sweetheart." Another lie. Eleanor had become an expert at lying, at pretending, at wearing the mask of someone who was coping. By 65, Eleanor had accepted her fate. This was it. This was her life. She would live alone, die alone. And that was fine. It had to be fine. Because the alternative, hoping for something different, hurt too much. Hope was dangerous. Hope was what killed you in the end. She developed routines. Routines were safe. Coffee at 7, toast with jam. The crossword puzzle from the newspaper that was delivered every morning. A walk around the neighborhood at 9. Lunch at noon. Always the same thing. A sandwich. Soup from a can. Reading in the afternoon. The same armchair. The same blanket. Dinner at 6. Something simple. Something for 1. Television until 10. Then bed. Then repeat. Her neighbors probably thought she was lonely. They weren't wrong. But Eleanor had made peace with loneliness, or at least she told herself she had. Loneliness was predictable. Loneliness didn't surprise you. Loneliness didn't promise you things and then rip them away. The house grew quiet. So quiet. Eleanor started leaving the television on just for the noise, just so it didn't feel like a mausoleum. She talked to herself sometimes, out loud. Is this crazy, Robert? Am I losing my mind? The walls never answered. She hadn't expected them to. But sometimes, late at night, she wished they would. At 68, Eleanor looked at herself in the mirror and saw an old woman. When did that happen? When did her hair turn completely silver? When did these lines carve themselves so deeply into her face? When did her hands start to look like her grandmother's hands? She felt betrayed by her own body. It kept aging without Robert, kept changing, kept moving forward while her heart stayed frozen at 48. Her daughter started calling more frequently. Mom, have you thought about moving into a senior community? They have activities. You'd meet people. Eleanor bristled at the suggestion. I'm not ready for a nursing home, Miranda. That's not what I'm saying, Mom. I just think you need more social interaction. You spend too much time alone. Eleanor wanted to scream. I've spent 20 years alone. What difference does it make now? But Miranda was persistent. She sent brochures, bright, glossy pamphlets showing silver-haired people playing cards and doing yoga and smiling like they hadn't buried the love of their life 2 decades ago. Eleanor threw them in the trash, then fished them out later, read them in secret, felt pathetic for even considering it. One particular community kept appearing in the mail. Willowbrook Senior Living, not a nursing home. Independent living for active adults 55 and older. Eleanor hated that phrase. Active adults. What did that even mean? That you weren't dead yet? The brochure showed a beautiful property, gardens, a library, a community center with classes and events. Eleanor almost threw this one away too. But something stopped her. Maybe it was the library. She had always loved libraries. Or maybe it was the garden. She used to garden with Robert. They had grown tomatoes and basil and more zucchini than 2 people could ever eat. Or maybe she was just tired. So tired of being alone in this big, empty house full of ghosts. She called for a tour. Felt ridiculous the whole time she was dialing. Felt like she was betraying Robert somehow. Betraying their house, their life together. But the woman on the phone was kind. Not pushy, not condescending, just kind. We'd love to show you around, Eleanor. How about Thursday at 2? Thursday at 2. Eleanor marked it on her calendar, then almost canceled 3 times. But something, some tiny voice she barely recognized anymore, told her to go. Just go. Just look. You don't have to decide anything. Just look. Now here's what you need to understand. And this is crucial. So many people think moving forward means leaving behind. They think loving again means forgetting. They think opening your heart means betraying the past. Eleanor thought all of these things, and she was about to discover how wrong she was. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Stay with us, because what happens next changes everything. Willowbrook Senior Living was nothing like Eleanor expected. She had pictured something clinical, sterile, sad, but this was different. The grounds were beautiful, mature trees, flower beds in full bloom, benches scattered throughout where residents sat reading or chatting. The buildings were modern but warm, not institutional at all. Her tour guide was a woman named Patricia, maybe 60, energetic without being exhausting. She showed Eleanor a 1-bedroom unit that was available. It was smaller than her house, obviously, but it had good light, a small kitchen, a balcony overlooking the garden, and that library she had seen in the brochure was real. Floor-to-ceiling books, big windows, comfortable chairs. Patricia introduced Eleanor to a few residents as they walked. Everyone seemed genuinely happy. Not fake brochure happy, but actually content. Eleanor didn't know what to make of it. She had expected to hate this place, to confirm her suspicion that it was glorified warehousing for people nobody wanted to deal with anymore. But she didn't hate it, and that confused her. As they finished the tour, Patricia mentioned a community dinner that evening. We do these once a month. It's completely optional, but it's a nice way for prospective residents to get a feel for the community. No pressure, just good food and conversation. Would you like to stay? Eleanor's first instinct was to say no, make an excuse, run back to her safe, lonely house. But that tiny voice spoke up again. Stay, just stay. What do you have to lose? So she said yes, surprised herself by saying yes. Okay, I'll stay for dinner. The dining hall was large but didn't feel cafeteria-like. Round tables, real tablecloths, actual flowers as centerpieces. Patricia seated Eleanor at a table with 3 other residents. This is Eleanor. She's considering joining our community. Everyone, make her feel welcome. And then Patricia disappeared, leaving Eleanor with 3 strangers. There was Margaret, a tiny woman with white hair and sharp eyes. Philip, a tall man with a gentle smile who immediately stood and pulled out Eleanor's chair. And then there was William. William, who would change everything. William was 72. Silver hair. Kind eyes. Quiet. He didn't dominate the conversation like Philip did. Didn't pepper Eleanor with questions like Margaret did. He just sat there, observing, occasionally smiling at something someone said. And when he did speak, his voice was thoughtful, measured, like he only spoke when he had something worth saying. Dinner was pleasant. The food was actually good. The conversation flowed easily. Margaret told stories about her grandchildren. Philip complained about his son trying to control his life. Eleanor found herself relaxing, laughing even. When was the last time she had laughed? She couldn't remember. As dessert was being served, William finally spoke directly to Eleanor. Patricia mentioned you're considering moving here. What brought you to look at Willowbrook? It was a simple question, a polite question. But the way he asked it, the way he looked at her when he asked it, like he actually wanted to know, like her answer mattered. Eleanor hesitated, then found herself being honest. My daughter thinks I spend too much time alone. She's probably right. I've been widowed for 20 years. I'm not sure I remember how to be around people anymore. William nodded slowly. I understand. I lost my wife 8 years ago. It's hard. People don't understand unless they've been through it. Something passed between them in that moment. Recognition. Understanding. The silent acknowledgement of 2 people who had survived the unsurvivable. Eleanor felt tears prick her eyes. Horrified, she blinked them back. I'm sorry. I don't usually get emotional with strangers. William's expression was gentle. Grief isn't something we should apologize for, and we're not strangers anymore. We're dinner companions at the very least. Eleanor smiled despite herself. That's true. I suppose we are. The rest of dinner passed quickly. Too quickly. Before Eleanor knew it, people were saying goodnight, heading back to their units. Philip and Margaret invited her to come back any time. You'd fit right in here, dear, Margaret said, patting her hand. William walked Eleanor to the parking lot. He didn't have to, didn't offer. Just fell into step beside her as she headed toward her car. Thank you for joining us tonight, he said when they reached her car. I hope we didn't scare you off. Eleanor laughed. Not at all, you were all lovely. Surprisingly lovely. William smiled. Surprisingly? Eleanor felt her cheeks warm. I didn't mean it that way. I just expected this place to be depressing, like giving up. But it's not. It's actually rather nice. William nodded. I felt the same way when I first visited. I fought the idea for 2 years, lived alone in my house, convinced myself I was fine. I wasn't fine. But I was stubborn. What changed your mind? Eleanor asked. William was quiet for a moment. One day I realized I wasn't living anymore. I was just existing, going through motions, waiting to die, if I'm honest. And I thought, is this what she would want for me? My wife. Would she want me to spend my remaining years alone and miserable? The answer was no. She would be furious with me, actually. Eleanor felt something crack inside her chest. That same question had haunted her for 20 years. Would Robert want this for her? This half-life? This self-imposed isolation? She knew the answer. Had always known. But knowing and accepting were different things. I should go, Eleanor said, suddenly overwhelmed. But thank you. For dinner. For the conversation. For understanding. William stepped back. You're welcome. I hope you'll consider Willowbrook. I think you'd be happy here. Then he turned and walked back toward the building, leaving Eleanor standing by her car feeling more confused than she had in years. She drove home in a daze. Her house felt emptier than usual, quieter. She made tea, sat in Robert's chair, and for the first time in 20 years, she asked herself what she really wanted, not what she thought she deserved, not what felt safest, but what she actually wanted. The answer surprised her. She wanted to feel alive again. She wanted to wake up with a reason to get out of bed. She wanted to have dinner with people who made her laugh. She wanted to stop being so alone. And maybe, just maybe, she wanted to see William again. That last thought terrified her. She pushed it away immediately. Don't be ridiculous, Eleanor. You're 68 years old. You're not some teenager with a crush. But the thought wouldn't leave. All night it stayed with her. William, his kind eyes, his understanding, the way her heart had beat just a little faster when he walked her to her car. Now listen carefully, because this is important. Eleanor is about to make a decision that will change her entire life. And if you're watching this thinking it's too late for you, thinking your chance at happiness has passed, thinking love is only for the young, you need to hear what happens next. Because Eleanor is about to prove that the heart has no expiration date. That 68 is not too old. That 20 years of grief does not have to define the rest of your life. So stay with us. This is where everything shifts. Eleanor didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, Robert's empty side stretched out beside her like an accusation, and thought about William. Thought about Willowbrook. Thought about the possibility of something different, something new. It felt like betrayal, like she was abandoning Robert, abandoning their life together, abandoning her role as the faithful widow. But another voice, quieter, but growing stronger, asked a different question. Wasn't 20 years enough? Hadn't she mourned long enough? Hadn't she punished herself enough for the crime of surviving? Robert wouldn't want this. She knew that. He would want her to be happy, to live, to find joy again. He had told her as much in his final days, though she hadn't wanted to hear it then. The next morning, Eleanor called the Willowbrook office. She asked about the one-bedroom unit, about move-in dates, about costs and contracts. She made an appointment to come back, to see the unit again, to talk details. And when she hung up the phone, her hands were shaking. Not from fear, from something else. Something that felt dangerously like hope. Miranda was shocked when Eleanor told her. You're actually considering it? Really? I've been trying to get you to do this for 3 years. What changed? Eleanor didn't mention William, didn't mention the crack in her armor, Just said I'm tired of being alone, sweetheart. I think it's time. The move happened quickly. Too quickly. Eleanor purged 20 years of accumulation, donated Robert's clothes finally, packed up their books, keeping only her favorites, sold furniture that wouldn't fit. Each item she let go felt like a small death, but also like a small freedom. By the time moving day arrived, Eleanor felt raw, exposed, terrified, but also strangely excited. Her unit at Willowbrook was on the second floor, balcony facing the garden. She unpacked slowly, methodically, creating a new space, a space that honored her past but didn't live in it. She hung photos of Robert, but she also hung new curtains, bought a new bedspread, painted the walls a soft blue she had always loved. The first week was an adjustment, learning the rhythm of communal living, meals in the dining hall if she wanted, activities posted on bulletin boards, people everywhere. It was overwhelming after 20 years of solitude, but it was also invigorating. She saw William occasionally, in the library, at dinner, walking the grounds. They would nod, smile, sometimes exchange a few words about the weather or a book, but nothing more. Eleanor told herself she was relieved, told herself she didn't want anything more. But she noticed him, always noticed him, and sometimes caught him noticing her too. 3 weeks after moving in, Eleanor joined a book club that met in the library every Thursday. She needed something to do, some way to meet people, some structure to her days. She arrived early, picked a seat by the window, and then William walked in. He looked surprised to see her, then pleased. "Eleanor, I didn't know you were interested in the book club." She smiled. "I've been a reader my whole life. It seemed like a natural fit." He sat down beside her, not across from her, not at the other end of the room, right beside her. Close enough that she could smell his cologne. Something subtle, woody, nice. The book club discussion was lively, 15 members arguing about character motivation and symbolic meaning. Eleanor found herself enjoying it, really enjoying it. She had missed this, missed talking about books with people who cared, missed using her brain for something other than crossword puzzles and television plots. After the meeting, William asked if she wanted to get coffee. Just coffee. In the small cafe area off the dining hall. Eleanor knew she should say no, knew this was dangerous territory, but she said yes, because she wanted to, because his company felt comfortable, because 20 years was a long time to say no to everything. They talked for 2 hours. About books, about their lives before Willowbrook, about their spouses. William had been married to Diane for 41 years. She died of cancer, long and brutal and exhausting. He had been her caregiver for 3 years, watching her fade, holding her hand through the worst of it. When she finally died, he felt relieved, then guilty for feeling relieved, then angry, then numb. Eleanor shared about Robert, about the suddenness, about how she had no time to prepare, how one morning he was there and by afternoon he was gone, about the 20 years since, the loneliness, the guilt, the feeling that she was somehow failing him by still being here. William listened, really listened. Didn't try to fix anything or offer platitudes, just listened. And when she finished, he said something that changed everything. "Eleanor, can I tell you what I've learned?" She nodded. "The people we love don't want us to stop living when they die. They want the opposite. They want us to live bigger, love harder, find joy wherever we can. Because that's what love is. It's wanting the best for someone, even when you're not there anymore." Eleanor felt tears spill over. She didn't try to stop them. "You're right. I know you're right. But it's so hard." William reached across the table and took her hand. "I know it is. But maybe we could make it easier. Together. As friends. As people who understand each other. That was the beginning. They started spending time together. Coffee after book club. Walks in the garden. Dinners at the same table. It was friendship. Companionship. Nothing more. Or at least that's what Eleanor told herself. That's what she told Miranda when her daughter asked too many questions during their Sunday phone calls. We're friends, Miranda, that's all. But it was becoming something more. Slowly. Carefully. Neither of them acknowledging it. But both of them feeling it. The way their conversations grew longer. The way they sought each other out. The way Eleanor's heart beat faster when she saw him. The way William's face lit up when she entered a room. 6 months after moving to Willowbrook, Eleanor admitted to herself what she had been denying. She had feelings for William. Real feelings. Romantic feelings. Terrifying feelings. She was 68 years old and falling for someone. It felt absurd. It felt wonderful. It felt like betraying Robert. It felt like coming back to life. The guilt nearly crushed her. Some nights she would lie awake, Robert's photo on her nightstand, and apologize. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't want this. But I can't help it. And I think you'd like him. I think you'd want this for me. But I'm still so sorry. Winter came. The garden turned brown and bare. The days grew shorter. Eleanor had been at Willowbrook for 8 months. William had become her best friend, her favorite person, the one she looked for first at any gathering, the one whose opinion mattered most, the one who made her feel seen. One evening in December, there was a holiday party. Decorations everywhere, music playing, residents dressed up. Eleanor wore a burgundy dress she hadn't worn in years, put on makeup, actually fixed her hair, felt foolish, felt hopeful, felt alive in a way she hadn't in 2 decades. William found her by the refreshment table. Eleanor, you look beautiful. Not you look nice. Not you look well. But you look beautiful. She blushed like a teenager. Thank you. You look very handsome yourself. He did. In a dark suit and tie, silver hair combed back, those kind eyes watching her, they danced. When slow music came on and other couples moved to the floor, William held out his hand. May I? Eleanor hesitated. She hadn't danced since Robert. Dancing felt intimate, personal, sacred. But she took his hand. Let him pull her onto the floor. Let him place one hand on her waist and take her other hand in his. Let him guide her into the gentle sway of the music. It felt strange at first. Foreign, wrong. This wasn't Robert's arms, Robert's height, Robert's rhythm. But then something shifted. Eleanor stopped comparing, stopped analyzing, stopped feeling guilty, and just let herself be present. Here. Now. In this moment. In these arms. Feeling something she thought she would never feel again. When the song ended, William didn't let go right away. He looked at her. Really looked at her. Eleanor, I need to tell you something. Her heart hammered. I've been trying not to feel this way. I've been telling myself we're just friends, that anything more would be inappropriate, or too soon, or too complicated. But the truth is, I care about you. More than I should, more than is probably wise. Eleanor couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, couldn't believe what she was hearing. William continued. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know. You've brought something back into my life I thought was gone forever. Hope, joy, the feeling that maybe there are still good days ahead, and I wanted you to know that. Even if you don't feel the same way. Eleanor found her voice. Finally. William, I feel exactly the same way. And I've been terrified of it. Guilty about it. Convinced I was betraying Robert's memory. but I can't help it. You make me want to live again. You make me believe that 68 is not too old to feel this way, that 20 years of grief doesn't have to be forever. They stood there in the middle of the dance floor, other couples moving around them, and acknowledged what had been building for months. This was more than friendship. This was something new, something unexpected, something neither of them had been looking for but both desperately needed. And here's what you need to understand right now, right this moment. Eleanor just proved something crucial. That love doesn't have an age limit. That your heart can break open again even after 2 decades of being closed. That finding someone new doesn't diminish what you had before. It expands it, honors it, proves that the love you experienced was real enough to teach you how to love again. So if you're sitting there thinking it's too late, thinking your chance has passed, thinking love is behind you, Eleanor's story proves you wrong. But wait, we're not finished yet, because what happens next will absolutely amaze you. Eleanor and William's relationship developed slowly, respectfully. They were not teenagers. They did not rush. They took their time, learning each other, discovering each other, building something solid. They had coffee every morning, walked every afternoon, sat together at dinner, talked about everything. Their marriages, their children, their fears, their regrets, their hopes. Miranda was skeptical at first. "Mom, are you sure about this? You barely know him." Eleanor smiled. "Sweetheart, I've spent 8 months getting to know him. I know him better than I knew your father after 8 months of dating. We were 22 then. We are not 22 now. We know who we are. We know what we want. We're not playing games." William's children were more accepting, particularly his daughter Lisa, who flew in to meet Eleanor. She pulled Eleanor aside after dinner. "Thank you for making my father happy again. We thought he was just going to give up after Mom died, just fade away. But you've given him a reason to keep going." Eleanor felt tears well up. "He's done the same for me." They went on dates, real dates, dinner at restaurants, movies, a play, a concert, holding hands like teenagers, stealing kisses in the garden, learning each other's bodies with a tenderness that comes from age and loss and knowing how precious this all is. Eleanor struggled with guilt. Some days it overwhelmed her. She would look at Robert's photo and feel like she was cheating, like she was doing something wrong. William understood. He felt the same way about Diane. They talked about it, worked through it together, gave each other permission to love again without forgetting. 1 year after Eleanor moved to Willowbrook, William took her back to that spot in the garden where they first walked together. "Eleanor," he said, taking both her hands in his, "I never thought I would feel this way again. Never thought my heart had room for more love. But you've shown me that love doesn't run out. It multiplies. Every day with you is a gift." He pulled out a small box. Eleanor's heart stopped. "I'm not asking you to marry me. We're too old for all that paperwork and complication. But I want you to have this." He opened the box. Inside was a simple gold ring, a commitment ring, a promise. "Will you build a life with me? Whatever time we have left, will you be my partner, my companion, my love?" Eleanor looked at the ring, at William, at this man who had brought her back to life, who had shown her that 68 is not too old, that 20 years of grief does not have to be the end of the story. That love can bloom again in the most unexpected places. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will." He slipped the ring on her finger, kissed her gently. And Eleanor felt something she hadn't felt in 20 years. Complete. Not because William completed her, but because she had finally given herself permission to be whole again. They moved in together, combined their units into a 2-bedroom, merged their lives, their books, their memories, their futures, created a space that honored both their pasts while embracing their present. Photos of Robert and Diane sat side by side on the mantel, not competing, not erasing, just coexisting, just acknowledging that both loves were real. Both loves mattered. Eleanor's transformation was remarkable. The woman who had been numb for 20 years was suddenly vibrant again. She laughed. Really laughed. The kind of laughter that comes from your belly and makes your eyes water. She engaged with life, took a painting class, joined a volunteer program at the local library, reconnected with old friends she had abandoned in her grief. Miranda visited and barely recognized her mother. "Mom, you're glowing," Eleanor smiled. "I'm happy, sweetheart. For the first time in 20 years, I'm actually happy." Miranda hugged her tight. "Dad would be so happy for you." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "I know he would. I finally believe that. I finally understand that loving William doesn't mean I loved your father any less. It just means my heart was big enough for both." William and Eleanor became a fixture at Willowbrook, the couple everyone pointed to, the proof that it's never too late, that love can find you anywhere, at any age. They held hands everywhere they went, kissed in public without embarrassment, danced at every opportunity, lived fully and openly and without apology. 2 years after they met, Eleanor was 70. William was 74. They threw a party, invited everyone, celebrated not an anniversary of their relationship, but an anniversary of their second chance. Eleanor stood up and gave a speech that left everyone in tears. "I spent 20 years convinced that love was behind me, that joy was something from my past, that the rest of my life would be about enduring, not living. I was wrong. So beautifully wrong. William didn't replace Robert. Nothing could. But he gave me something I thought was gone forever. Hope. The belief that tomorrow might be better than today. The courage to open my heart again even though I knew it could break. Even though loss is inevitable. Even though nothing lasts forever." She looked at William, took his hand. "If you're watching this and thinking it's too late, if you've convinced yourself that love is for the young, if you've built walls around your heart to protect it from more pain, I'm here to tell you that you're missing out, that life is too short to spend it half alive, that 68 or 70 or 80 is not too old to take a chance, to risk, to hope, to love." The room erupted in applause, people crying, hugging, celebrating not just Eleanor and William, but the possibility they represented. Margaret, who had been at that first dinner where Eleanor and William met, pulled Eleanor aside. "You know what you two are? You're proof. Proof that our stories aren't over, that we still get to write new chapters." Eleanor thought about that often. New chapters. She had been so convinced her story was finished, that the book was closed, that all that remained was waiting for the end. But she had been wrong. Life had given her blank pages, and with William, she was filling them with something beautiful. They traveled. Things neither had done in years, weekend trips, visits to family, a cruise, adventures, making memories, taking photos, living. They talked about everything, made plans, some long-term, some short-term. Understanding that at their age, all plans came with an asterisk, but making them anyway. Because hope matters. Because plans give you something to look forward to. Because living requires believing in tomorrow. Did Eleanor still think about Robert? Every single day. Did she still miss him? Of course. Did she still cry sometimes? Yes. But now joy lived alongside the grief. Now memories made her smile more than they made her sad. Now she understood that loving Robert and loving William were not mutually exclusive. Both could be true. Both were true. William understood because he felt the same way about Diane. They could talk about their lost spouses without jealousy. without competition, with respect and love and acknowledgement that those relationships shaped who they were, made them capable of this love, this second chance. 3 years into their relationship, William had a health scare, a small stroke. He recovered, but it reminded them both how fragile this all was, how temporary, how precious. Eleanor stayed by his side through the hospital stay, the rehabilitation, the fear. And William held her hand and said, "I'm not going anywhere yet. We still have time." And they did. Years. Beautiful years. Filled with the ordinary magic of daily life. Morning coffee, afternoon walks, evening conversations, holding hands while watching television, arguing over crossword puzzle answers, laughing at inside jokes, building a life together, a real life, not a replacement life, not a consolation prize, but a genuine, full, beautiful life. Eleanor learned something in those years, something she wished she could go back and tell her 68-year-old self. That opening your heart again after loss is not betrayal. It's honoring everything you learned about love. It's taking all that pain and grief and using it to love more deeply, more gratefully, more fully, because you know how quickly it can all disappear. At 75, Eleanor looked back at the woman she had been at 68. That scared, guilty, numb woman who thought her life was over, who thought 20 years of widowhood had to become 40 years, who almost said no to Willowbrook, who almost said no to that first dinner, who almost said no to William. Thank God she had said yes. Thank God for that tiny voice that pushed her forward. Thank God for second chances. Thank God that love doesn't follow our expectations or our timelines or our rules. Thank God that 68 is not too old, that 20 years is not too long, that hearts can break open even when you think they're permanently closed. This is Eleanor's story. A woman who spent 20 years as a widow, who never imagined love would return at 68, who was wrong in the most beautiful way possible, who proved that it's never too late. Never too late to start over. Never too late to take a risk. Never too late to open your heart. Never too late to love. Because love doesn't care about your age or your history or your fears or your timeline. It just shows up, persistent and patient and impossible to ignore, waiting for you to be brave enough to say yes, waiting for you to believe that maybe, just maybe, the best chapters are still ahead. Eleanor lived 7 more years with William. 7 years of joy and companionship and love. When he died at 81, peacefully in his sleep, Eleanor grieved. Of course she grieved. But this grief was different. It didn't destroy her, didn't hollow her out, because she had no regrets. They had used every single day, had loved fully, had lived completely. At the funeral, Eleanor stood and spoke. Told everyone that William had taught her that love doesn't diminish when you share it, that her capacity to love Robert had not been reduced by loving William, that her heart had simply expanded to hold both, that this was possible, that this was beautiful, that this was how it should be. And after the funeral, when people asked if she regretted taking the risk, knowing it would end in loss again, Eleanor said something that summed up everything she had learned. Of course it ended in loss. Everything ends in loss. That's life. But I got 7 years. 7 years of love and joy and companionship that I wouldn't have had if I had let fear win. 7 years that proved life is still worth living, even when you're 68 and scared and convinced it's too late. So no, I don't regret a single moment. That's the message. That's what Eleanor's story teaches us, that it's never too late, that fear is a liar, that grief doesn't have to be forever, that love can bloom at any age, that 68 or 70 or 80 is not too old to take a chance, to risk your heart, to say yes to possibility. So if you're watching this and you're alone, if you've convinced yourself that your chapter is closed, if you think love is behind you, if you believe it's too late, Eleanor's story is for you. It's proof, living proof, that love has no age limit, that second chances are real, that the heart is far more resilient than we give it credit for. After 20 years as a widow, Eleanor never imagined love would return at 68. But it did, and it changed everything, proved everything, saved everything. Because that's what love does. It shows up when you least expect it, breaks through your walls, gives you reasons to keep going, reminds you that you're alive, that you matter, that your story isn't over. It's never over. Not until you decide it is. And Eleanor decided, at 68 after 20 years of existing instead of living, that her story was far from finished, that there were blank pages waiting, that she still had love to give and receive, that she still had adventures ahead, that she still had reasons to wake up smiling. And she was right. So beautifully, wonderfully, miraculously right.